What is going on, everyone? Welcome in to our next draft grades video for the 2022 NFL Draft. Here we're going to be doing the AFC East, and I want to say again, I'm here to be critical of these drafts. This is not going to be NFL.com and ESPN, all A's and B's across the board, painting rainbows and butterflies on your team's draft class. No, I'm here to tell you like it is. I'm going to tell you based on my pre-draft evaluations who I think did a good job getting value down the board, and ultimately how I think these players are going to pan out at the next level. Realize I'm not going to be perfect, just like your team's NFL GM is not going to be perfect, but let's have some fun here. I do want to ask you guys, please do hit that like button if you enjoy the video. Also, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more of these draft grades videos as we go. You're also not going to want to miss my summer deep dive series where we preview every single NFL team in their own video, counting down my power rankings. Probably my most favorite thing that I do on this channel every year. But let's go ahead and get started with the Buffalo Bills, who came up just a couple picks to grab Keyz Elam out of Florida. Was the best cornerback on the board for me at that point in time and was the biggest need for the Buffalo Bills. I will say Keyz Elam is, to me, a little bit more of a man-heavy corner who definitely has the upside to develop more as a zone guy, but considering this is such a team with urgency, I would just say that is expecting him to come in and play as a high-end, at least a solid starter in their zone-heavy system right away. I don't think it's a perfect fit, but still a good pick here. Very critical with these grades. So again, a B grade means it is a good pick. I just don't think this was like an overwhelming slam dunk or anything like that. Still would be happy if I'm a Bills fan that they went and were aggressive to fill really the last remaining need on their roster, other than arguably running backs. So they take James Cook at the end of the second. And I really don't hate this pick, but I just don't think James Cook is a full-on running back worthy of a second-round pick. I think they're drafting him because they know how he's going to fit in their team as that third down back. He fills in very well for their team. But similarly to like when the Kansas City Chiefs, for example, took Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round, a lot of the analysis, and I was guilty of this as well, I'm kind of learning from my mistake here, was, well, that's their last remaining need, so who really cares? But turns out a couple years later, they really could have used a developmental corner or an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman or something that was an actual valuable pick at the time. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of a fast receiving back going to the Buffalo Bills and say, wow, what a great pick. But I do think there's a possibility that the Bills, when Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are regressing, or they have to pay somebody, or maybe they're looking for another receiver after a Stephon Diggs injury, or something could happen where you're going to look at this and say, man, I really wish we drafted a receiver. I really wish we drafted, some other valuable position and frankly a better player than James Cook. I think he'll have an impact on this team. That said, I think he's going to improve this offense, and I don't think this is a bad pick. I just think there's a little bit of pros and cons to this pick when you really sit there and think about it, to be a little bit critical of it. Then they take Terrell Bernard in the third round, and it's starting to get a little weird here with this Bills draft. I feel like I tend to give the Bills a ton of benefit of the doubt. I love Brandon Beane, definitely a proven general manager that has earned the benefit of the doubt. But I've also given the benefit of the doubt on picks like this in the past and said, oh, he probably knows something I don't. And turned out, I actually was right to be critical of that being a reach. And I think that's the case here with Terrell Bernard in the third round. It's just early. I think Bernard's a really smart player. I think he can be a good special teamer immediately. I think he diagnoses things well and can maybe be a quality backup. But what's the value of him here in the third round? Again, if you feel like you need a weak side linebacker right now, I don't think you had to take him this early. Spend that pick on a more valuable player, a better position, something you might need down the road. I don't see upside potential with Bernard, who's an undersized linebacker that just isn't an elite athlete. Could be totally wrong on that assessment. He's a good player. I enjoyed watching him, but a 5th to 7th round grade. I do think this is early. and a pick that's ultimately not going to make much of a difference for the Buffalo Bills. Then they take Khalil Shakir in the 5th round. I do think this is the best value they got in this draft. I had a 4th rounder on Shakir, and I was a little bit lower on Shakir than some of the people that had him as more of a 2nd or a 3rd round guy, so some people will really like this pick. But in the 5th round, you can't argue he's a great fit. They get a slot replacement for Cole Beasley. He's probably going to play a lot right away. So he just doesn't have a ton of long speed as a separator in his routes, but he is a guy that seems to be faster with the ball in his hands, to kind of steal that take from Brett Coleman a little bit. Like he really is just better with the ball in his hands than he is as a vertical threat as far as his speed goes. But I really like his route running. His release package is totally refined. One of the better release packages in this class as far as getting off press and getting early on slants and whip routes and just little short and intermediate stuff. So I do like the way he fits into this offense, and I think they found a nice slot receiver there in the 5th round. Then they take Matt Araiza, the punter out of San Diego State. For what it's worth, he's a really good punter. I don't normally watch punters, but this was one that I was actually really well aware of. And a lot of people were really excited about Matt Araiza. Into the 6th round here, the Bills kind of acknowledging that whoever they take here, probably not even going to make their team most likely. So take a punter that looks like he could be a really good one, get him on a cheap rookie contract. Totally fine with that pick. Then they take Christian Benford. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to watching Benford out of Villanova. Looks like a lengthy, speedy guy who can play special teams and maybe a developmental corner. So a pretty solid 6th round pick there. Then they take Luke Tenuta out of Virginia Tech. Tenuta is a really just bizarre physical profile. He's over 6'7", but has 32.5-inch arms. So I do think he's going to be a bit of a matchup problem for certain players when you're that big and tall with that short of arms. When you go up against the lengthy power rushers, they're going to get up inside your chest and cause you some problems. He's very strong. He's athletic. I think he can play and be a quality backup for them. So that's a totally fine pick as a 6th round pick. I think he's got a weird physical profile that's probably going to hold him back from ever being like a starter, but he's immediate depth, which is fine. And then they take Braylon Spector out of Clemson. So clearly they have something on their mind with this linebacker room, which is interesting to me. You have Matt Milano, you have Tremaine Edmonds. Maybe they just wanted backups. They wanted special teamers. Maybe they see these guys as guys that could potentially develop into replacements for some of those guys. I don't really know what the thinking is there, but I didn't really see a ton of value with either of those picks. Both guys kind of, average I would say above average athleticism, below average size, decent kind of run and chase tackler types that'll definitely be good special teamers. At the end of the day, I actually was pretty underwhelmed by this Bills class. It's not something I expected because I got excited about the James Cook pick on draft day. I got excited about Khalil Shakir for sure. But just kind of looking back at this, I do actually think it's a little bit of an underwhelming haul. I don't think it's a poor draft either. I gave it a C+, average draft. They filled some needs. They got some special teamers. But I also, unless Kaiir Elam really hits, I don't think they got any stars in this draft. And I don't know. Even though we trust Brandon Beane, I think we might look back on this and say it was a little bit of an underwhelming haul. And of course, it's all just my opinion. You're allowed to disagree, but that's how I feel based on my evaluations on these guys. Then we have the Miami Dolphins. We get to go pretty quick for this one. I'll just show you the grade right now. The final grade is a C. Honestly, it's more of a NA or an incomplete. Now, their draft was going to get Tyreek Hill. They gave up a 1st and a 2nd for Tyreek Hill, and if you put Tyreek Hill at the top of this list, it looks pretty dang good. So I'm not grading drafts out that way. I'm just assessing what happened over the weekend, so we can't really do that. I think they did fine. They got Channing Tindall, who's going to probably compete for starting reps as a linebacker, someone that was really a role player for Georgia, didn't get to show off everything he was capable of. And I like his upside. He's a really good athlete. I'm excited to see what he can do, when asked to be an NFL linebacker and wear a lot of different hats. I also think he has upside to maybe, he showed a lot of good stuff as a blitzer. I think he has some upside to maybe contribute as that sort of outside backer hybrid role that we've seen so many guys in Miami succeed at. He doesn't have the typical size and length to be that kind of guy, but Skill set, absolutely. So no problems with that pick. I think he fits in there. A lot of linebackers had gone. If I'm going to nitpick it, I guess I would say, why the heck wouldn't you take Leo Chenal, who's like a dream fit for the Dolphins? Like, I will admit, like, if I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm pretty pissed because Leo Chenal is, we've literally joked about Wisconsin linebackers on the Dolphins being great. That doesn't add up to me, but they take Eric Ezukanma out of Texas Tech. I think this was a response to trading away Devontae Parker. They looked at their team. They're like, we got a pretty good depth chart. We need another possession receiver that can play on the outside because they do have a lot of slot guys. And I understand that thought process. He was a reach for me. I had him as a 6th to a 7th round guy, but a lot of receivers had come off the board. I think this pick is fine. He's a good possession receiver and really nothing else in my opinion. He just is not a good route runner. He's not an athlete, but really good ball skills. He'll be probably a decent wide receiver 5 for them, but that's a little early to take that in the 4th round. So a little bit of a ding, getting a C-. They take Cameron Good, kind of an outside backer hybrid out of California, kind of that edge linebacker hybrid type. Him and Tyndall are comparable skill sets, I would say. Good, a little more of a traditional edge type. Tyndall more of a traditional linebacker type, but that's what they like in their linebackers, which again is frustrating why they didn't take Leo Chenal, but Good in the 7th round fits their scheme, so that's a solid pick. And then they take Skylar Thompson out of Kansas State. I don't fully understand it. You have Teddy Bridgewater there. There's not a whole lot of developmental upside there for Skylar Thompson. You're using a draft pick that's going to end up on the practice squad. Whatever, it's a late pick. Who really cares? But I think it's a below average use of your resources, to say the least. So, there's just not a lot to say about this draft class. You got Tyreek Hill. You've done a great job in free agency. You get to figure out if Tua can play this year, and you have a good roster. So, that's it. I literally I'm out of things to say about this draft. It is what it is. Let's move on. The New England Patriots had some storylines, we'll say that, about this draft. They were kind of a laughing stock in the eyes of many for the Cole Strange pick. I didn't think it was that bad. Is it technically a reach? Yes. Though, I agree that interior offensive line was their biggest need. Their guard situation has really become depleted. Now, that was self-implicated. I don't get why they just gave away Shaq Mason. Like, that's an F plus, or F minus, but given where they were, I think all of the offensive linemen had gone. I don't think Tyler Linderbaum is a fit for them because he's such a big dude, or they like big dudes. And Cole Strange, at the 29th pick, was the best interior offensive lineman available for me on my board. So I don't think it was this crazy reach. And for that reason, I don't think he would have been available past the 50th pick like a lot of people have said. So I really don't think this was some dramatic reach. I think Cole Strange is a really good player. I think he's a day one starter with actually a lot more upside than people give credit to. Like, he tested really well and just beat the crap out of dudes for a living at Chattanooga. Although not for a living because they don't get paid. But anyway, it's an above average pick for me. I think you get a starting caliber guard, a guy with some upside. Yes, they took him a little bit earlier than they would like to, but they traded down to do it. I don't think this is some horrific Bill Belichick reach in Keel Harry style, Sony Michel style. I don't think it's that bad. Same thing goes for Tyquan Thornton. I actually had a 2nd round grade on Tyquan Thornton. Maybe I need to ring my own bell on that one because most people had him as a 4th or a 5th round guy. This guy can play, man. He's a real deep threat. He's 80% of Jameson Williams. No, he's not Jameson Williams, but he's almost as fast, and he is about the same size. He run blocks. I really like that about him. He does not struggle with drops despite having smaller hands, something you might worry about at the next level. But ultimately, let's put it this way, if Anthony Schwartz goes in the 3rd round last year, there was no way Tyquan Thornton was going to make it out of the 2nd round. And I think the Patriots knew that. I think a lot of teams saw him come off the board and were like, man, we were thinking about him at the end of the 2nd to get that speed with a guy that, seriously, he's 6'3", he has a release package, he runs routes, and he's good at tracking the football. That's a real deep threat at the next level. He was not going to make it to the 3rd round. So this is not a reach, in my opinion, just a very solid pick. They needed more speed in there. I think he'll compete with Nelson Aguilar and get some looks as a deep threat, and eventually will become a starting deep threat for them. So I like that pick, gave that a B. Then they take Marcus Jones in the 3rd round. I'm just genuinely excited to see Bill Belichick get to work with Marcus Jones. He's done such a good job with different shapes and sizes of defensive backs. Marcus Jones is 5'8". It's going to hold him back. He can't play on the outside. It held him back at college. Like, if he goes against a big receiver, he just can't, bang with him down the field, and he can't contest big bodied receivers up in the air. So he's got some physical limitations. But I do believe this: if Marcus Jones was in Sauce Gardner's body, or even Derek Stingley's body, or Zion McCollum's body, he would be the number 1 corner in this draft. His technique is totally clean. He's an excellent football player. He's got excellent zone eyes. And he's also a really good kick returner and someone that could even get involved on offense. So he's a useful player. Belichick probably just couldn't help himself. He was like, I think of all the ways I can use Marcus Jones. But I think beyond all the fun gimmicky stuff and the kick returning, I did compare him to K'Wan Williams. There are shorter slot corners that have become some of the better slot players in the league, and I will not be the least bit surprised if that's Marcus Jones, who was a good value for me here towards the back end of the 3rd round. Then they take Jack Jones in the 4th. I didn't like this pick. I don't see the upside with him. He's a more slender player with a lack of long speed. He does accelerate really well in short areas. He can definitely run the man coverage that they're going to ask of these corners. But for me, how do you take him over like Zion McCollum, for example? That is mind-meltingly inexplicable to me. I don't get it. I don't see the upside with him. Way too early to take him, so I will criticize him for that pick. Maybe he proves me wrong, but I doubt it, honestly. I just don't think he has the physical tools to prove me wrong on that statement. He could be a low-end starter someday, but yeah. Pierre Strong Jr. out of South Dakota State goes in the 4th round. I had a 3rd round grade on him. I really like Pierre Strong. I think if he can get on the field here, they're going to be happy to have him. I think you can ask some questions about how many running backs do you need, Bill Belichick. They already have 3 really good ones on the roster. So I'm kind of bummed as a Pierre Strong fan that he went somewhere that I just don't know if he's ever going to climb the depth chart and play. He's already 24 years old, so that's kind of a bummer. But from a value perspective, he's a really freaking good player to get this late. They take Bailey Zapp. This doesn't totally make sense to me. Like, in theory, taking a good backup quarterback on a cheap rookie contract is fine at the end of the 4th round. But why wouldn't you just take Sam Howell, who's going to be a good backup as well, and maybe he shows something and you flip him into something in the future? Like, that's just weird to me, and a poor usage of a pick that could have had value. Yeah, I think that kind of speaks for itself, honestly. Like, Sam Howell was dropping at this point, and he at least has upside. I mean, there could be a world where Sam Howell really works out and actually gives you a long-term future, like, franchise quarterback better than Mac Jones, who's kind of got a lower ceiling. Yeah, just a weird pick for me. It's in theory not a bad pick, but the fact that he went ahead of Sam Howell just was stupid to me. Then they take another running back. I like Kevin Harris. This dude's a thumper. I would say not a bad comparison for him is Damian Harris. Big, bruising guy with some deceptive speed. But again, probably not going to make the team. He's your RB5 or 6 at this point. So don't really get what that's about. They go all the way to Northwest Missouri State for Sam Roberts. Needless to say, I did not evaluate him. Even the NFL Network saw this pick, and they were like, wait, who's this guy? What school did he go to? It literally just, what position does he play? It literally just said, New England picks Sam Roberts. And that was it. Didn't list the school or the position. So I know nothing about this guy. Belichick probably saw something he liked. I will trust Belichick on that one. We'll just give it a C. Chasen Hines out of LSU. Good value at the end of the 6th round. Fits their archetype. You know, they don't always need big, like, tall guys. They do want big guys, though, and that's Chasen Hines. He's 6'2.5", 325 pounds. Very similar, physically speaking, to, like, Michael Onwenu. it's their type, so they kind of know what they like there, and wouldn't be stunned if 6th round pick out of LSU with their physical tools that they look for, if he turned into a player in the future. Andrew Stwaber, same kind of concept, going to a school that they've had a lot of success drafting out of. At a 6 to a priority free agent on Stwaber. Don't see a ton of upside there, but still a good process at the end of the 7th round. So ultimately, I look back on this draft and I'm underwhelmed for the Patriots. I think you got a good guard, you got a deep threat at wide receiver, you got a slot corner, some running backs, and a backup quarterback. That's kind of the definition of an average draft. I think some of the picks were, overly scrutinized at the top there with Strange and Thornton, but I definitely think they could have come away with more at more impactful positions. Things like some more versatile receivers, corners, especially safeties. They could have walked out of this draft with a Leo Chanel for their linebacking room. They didn't draft any linebackers here. They have a really rough linebacking room right now. So, yeah, I think it was a pretty underwhelming draft. I think it was overly scrutinized, but gets a C for me. The 3rd straight C in the AFC ceased. But the New York Jets are saving the day for this division. That's a first. They smashed this draft. This is actually going to be the highest rated draft that I've done so far, getting an A grade for me. They take Sauce Gardner, and that was just kind of a reaction for me. Not that it's a bad pick. I'm giving it a B+. I really like this pick. I really like how he fits in there. I do think they needed that kind of alpha corner. They have some different solid players in there, but none of them are Sauce Gardner. And the way that the rest of the draft played out made this make a lot more sense. I think an A pick would have been Kayvon Thibodeau, game-changing edge rusher, but not going to criticize them for Sauce Gardner. I think this was a really good pick. Then they get Garrett Wilson at 10. Love this. I had talked about them potentially taking Garrett Wilson at 4. So I was right that they liked Garrett Wilson. I was right that he fits the type of receiver that they want. Just the way that these kind of Shanahan offenses operate. You want a guy that can run away from defensive backs on crossing routes, get open on his own, be a vertical presence, but also a excellent run after catch guy as well in Garrett Wilson. So a slam dunk pick there. True A grade for me. Jermaine Johnson. I was a little bit lower on Jermaine Johnson, but I'm very happy I did not put him on my not my guys list. For one, he grew up or went to Eden Prairie High School, which was right down the street where I went to school. Go Skippers. But got to be cheering for Jermaine Johnson. Loved what I saw from him at the Senior Bowl. Did not love what I saw from him on his college tape after I watched him after the Senior Bowl. I did think the top 10 discussion on him was way over the top. My comparison for him is Shaq Lawson on Smelling Salts. I think he brings the same kind of rocked up, and ironically, I think Shaq Lawson actually went 26th overall to the Buffalo Bills, which is pretty funny. But I think he's going to be a much better player than Shaq Lawson because he brings a lot more energy. I think he gives you the same run defense that Shaq Lawson does, but a lot more juice and tenacity to get after the quarterback as a pass rusher. But he brings some stiffness. He lacks bend. I don't think he's going to be an elite pass rusher. That's why I worried about him as a top 10 pick. But as a number 2 here, absolutely. So this is a really good pick to come up and get him, and kind of fills out their pass rush, honestly fills out their defense in a lot of ways. And then Breece Hall in the 2nd round. This is about as good of a landing spot for Breece Hall as you could draw up. Scheme-wise, totally fits their outside zone scheme. He's got the speed to hit home runs. He's got the vision to find the right lanes. He has the contact balance, the receiving ability to play on 3rd downs. I like Michael Carter. The thought of him as a 3-down feature back was just silly. He's not capable of that. He doesn't have the speed and the size to hold up as that kind of guy and to produce as that kind of guy. Breece Hall is a souped up version of Michael Carter. So I love this pick. I think 2nd round is the money draft round for running backs. And I know some people are like, oh, you said you can't take, you gave Cook a C. Yeah, Cook is more Michael Carter than he is Breece Hall. So it's a lot more Michael Carter. I think I liked Carter better than I liked Cook last year. But yeah, I really like Breece Hall. He should be your #1 pick in all your dynasty redrafts and all that stuff. He's going to produce. And honestly, the way this offense is shaping up, they will know this year if Zach Wilson can play, which is an added asset for them because they have eliminated any excuse for him in year 2 to not take that next step. Then they even continue to add talent down the board. They take Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State, who to me was good value at the end of the 3rd. Really good blocker, someone that was underutilized at Ohio State, but showed everything you needed to see that says he can be a contributor as a Y tight end. Fits their system very well. They now have 3 guys that are capable tight ends for their offense that when they want to go heavy personnel, they can do it. Oh, and as if this draft class wasn't looking good enough already, they just snipe Max Mitchell in the 4th round. Like, are you kidding me? He was a 2nd round guy for me, a late 2nd, but man, he fits their system perfectly. Really athletic move blocker. I like his technique. I think he can give them guard tackle flexibility. You have questions regarding Mekhi Becton, which, by the way, this is a bonus that they didn't draft a tackle early, which would have told you they're done with Mekhi Becton, even though I would argue he's not the best system fit for the new wide zone blocking scheme that has been brought in here. That's a topic for a different day, but hey, Max Mitchell's a great fit either way, whether it's George Fant on the way out, whether it's Mekhi Becton unable to stay healthy, he can play tackle. I also think he could start at guard and give you an upgrade there. This, from a value perspective, is the best value they stole in this draft. So as if it didn't get good enough, I think Max Mitchell was an incredible pick, a true A for them. And then they just had that last 4th round pick sitting there, and they took Michael Clemens. I'm fine with it. Like, I don't think he's a great player, but I think he's a high energy guy. He's honestly not stylistically, he's similar to Jermaine Johnson. He just isn't as athletic, but a high energy dude, really strong arms, going to contribute and hold up against the run, will fit right in with that Robert Saleh defense, who just they like these strong, powerful players quite a bit, and I think he fits well. So I understand why they took him in the 4th round, even if it was a quote-unquote reach for me. Again, an A grade for the New York Jets. Joe Douglas has really blown me away with his last couple drafts. I think they have loaded up this Jets roster with a ton of talent, and now it's all on Zach Wilson to take that next step up and be the quarterback that I think he's capable of being. And if that happens, the AFC is already stupid stacked, but it would be really fun to see the Jets get into that mix as a surprise team next year. It feels like they always let us down, and you don't want to bet on that, but everything is in front of them. I really do believe that. And this draft, I think, was kind of the final little effort for them to get over that hump. So a great draft for the New York Jets. Wrapping up the AFC East here, we're going to do the AFC North next. Make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss that. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please do hit that like button if you did, and we'll see you for the next Draft Grades video. Peace out.